Go ahead.
Yeah. Today, I'm going to take you through my self-discovery 1.0, which is the story of an ordinary person. Why I say ordinary person is that my report neither has a capital X nor a small x. As GBP counselors, we know an X or a small x can help you work wonders in your life. Without those X's, I'm still able to become an extraordinary person, and all the credit goes to GBP. So I'm going to brief you through how GBP helped in my transformation. Okay. So I have started with a small story where there's a movie called Yavano Oruvan, which means just some other person. In that movie, hero R. Madhavan, he played a character of a small, short banker. He was a clerk in some bank, and his routine life gets disturbed when he is exposed to some corrupt group of people. Okay, and then what happens in his life is the story all about. That is why it was said like just a small ordinary man, his entire life gets transformed when he is experiencing some trauma in his life. Okay, so my transformation, and this can be explained with the help of three science laws, Newton's laws of motion. So that is what I'm going to do today. Newton's first law of motion says every body continues to be under rest or of uniform motion unless an external force acts on it. In the movie, the hero's normal routine life was disturbed by a gang of corrupt men. Okay. And Newton's second law of motion says that the rate of change of momentum of an object is directly proportional to the force applied on it. So in the movie, what happens is that when the hero sees the entire world around him being corrupt, he gets angered beyond control. And Newton's third law of motion says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So what happened as a result of all that was hero looked to change the world by killing every corrupt people he sets his eyes on. That was what happened in the movie. Okay. So now to my story. When I was in my stage of uniform motion, or what I call the stagnant stage, I was a sincere homemaker, a loving mother, a dutiful wife, and a daughter-in-law. And I had now no qualms about it. All this I did it voluntarily out of my own self-interest. No one had forced me to quit my job. No one had forced me to stay at home and look at my kids. But I did this voluntarily. And then there were some unbalanced forces in my life, which now after GVP and my transformation, I realized were just my perceptions. So what were those unbalanced forces? My concept of imperfect family members, because I was a hardcore perfectionist then, and what I saw was all of them in my family were imperfect. Okay, and there was this highly resistant son. Whatever I would say, he would not heed to it. And then my husband was spendthrift. All these were all trivial matters, but then those days it appeared so big to me. So what happened is, as a result of this, the rate of strain on a relationship and the rate of stress in me were directly proportional to those external forces and the force with which I looked to change them. And then finally, thank God, GBP happened in our lives. I didn't set out to change the world and people around like the hero of the movie did. I changed myself and things fell in place. So what did I know from my GBP and what do I relate with it? Why do I rave to people about GBP is all what all this session is about. Yeah. So the first revision, this is the first part of our report. It says, it talks about the curriculum and learning potential. My curriculum choice was accelerated learning. My learning potential was ideal for an ICSE curriculum. And I had an increased learning potential, with a maximum being the university level, which suggests that I had good lifelong learning potentials. Yes, I have been learning even now. Throughout the lockdown, I've been doing a lot of courses through Udemy, like neuroscience for personal development, emotional intelligence practitioner, happiness life coach, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, and a lot of other sessions. And I'm also a regular participant of MiDNA's learning sessions. My schooling was fairly easier. My only challenge was in my grade 11 and 12, where I was put in state board. Okay, from an ICSE level curriculum to 2 rungs down to a state board, I literally felt I was lost in forest. And those 2 years were a real challenge for me. Those days I didn't know the reason for that. But today I understand it was not the ideal curriculum for me. So what are my takeaways from here is the choice of curriculum should be done based on an individual's learning potential. So tomorrow, if I feel my sons are not able to accommodate in their curriculum, I will definitely move them to the ideal curriculum. Right now, both of them are in Cambridge. And I also know a person who is learning well in one stage of his life might need support in some other stages. So, which is exactly what I'm trying to do for my kids as well. Second thing I do want to say is I'm more of an intuitive learner. You give me some information, I'm able to connect the dots and find a bigger picture about it. And I'm more of an auditory learner. Whatever I listen to in class is mostly what I relied on learning. I didn't have to sit extra and study. Most of my schooling part was covered there. I used to listen in the class and I can remember that. When you ask me about a subject, I remember the teacher's voice echoing in my ears. I don't remember the diagrams. I don't remember what the teacher wrote on the board, but I remember their voices even now. And whatever I listened to in the class, I can actually remember very well. And even when I was preparing for my math exams, I used to read the steps aloud. I never used to sit and write it down because that was not the right option for me at all. And visual map cues are really insufficient for me. When I came for the MiDNA training session, I was standing in the middle of the main road with a mobile in my hand, GPS navigation turned on, but I couldn't navigate with the help of the map. I walked down to a nearby shop and asked them to way to MiDNA's office. That is how I reached there. I have so much trouble remembering visual cues. I can only rely on auditory cues. And even in my school and colleges, I couldn't remember the diagrams, flowcharts, and everything unless I read it aloud verbally, like this comes first, next. If I prepared like that, I could do it. Otherwise, it was actually a difficult thing for me. And I had the least preference to write things down, given my kinesthetic was so weak. But being an auditory learner, there was another challenge there. I could listen to only things only for short duration, like as short as 20 minutes. So every time I used to tell everyone, keep your speech short and sweet, please. In fact, when Divya gave me this counseling, she asked me if I used to tell everyone, keep your speech short and sweet. And those were exact words that I used to tell everyone. Please keep your speech short and sweet. So next thing is this my sensory preferences compared to my son's. As you see, my son is more of a visual learner. Yeah. So as you can see in this, my son is more of a visual learner while I was an auditory learner. Okay. And the challenge is, when I sat down to teach him, I couldn't write things down given that my kinesthetic was weak. And without proper diagrams and written wordings, my son was not able to pick up being a visual learner. So that was the first challenge that Divya made me understand. The second thing is, I always preferred short speeches, but my son was very, very less in articulation. Okay. So by the time he came to a subject, I used to lose interest in hearing talking. So today I'm taking conscious effort to take a whole patience and ask him, what exactly do you want to say? Otherwise, he keeps waiting around the bush and I lose interest so easily. So that is one thing. I make conscious effort to give my son the space to open up and show him the respect by listening to him patiently. The next thing that is shown here is about my memory and learning catalysts. As you can see here, I have very good long-term memory, especially my episodic memory is so high, followed by my echoic memory. Okay, good long-term memory coupled with an auditory learning. It was like I can remember my teacher's voices even today. Those things that I listened to in my class, a whole lot of things I can remember even now. A very good example of this was during my college days, most of us, we were involved in group studies. And there were certain subjects that the people from my group, like ECE, covered well ahead of what people did in computer science batches. And one day when people in computer science batch were sitting for a group study using our notes, they were stuck somewhere and they gave me a call. Manju, we are working on this sum. You have returned till so-and-so step, but after that you straight away return the answer. There are some steps missing in between. I neither knew what the sum was. I neither knew where they were stuck, but there was a spark in my head. I remembered my teacher's voice saying, After this step, you will be applying this formula and this answer is coming. The formula is not short like a plus b the whole square. It was a big formula. And I told them, see, there's this formula. See if this, the pattern that you're stuck in applies to this formula. If that is, then that is how the answer has arrived. And they checked and they said, yes, Manju, it is right. That is how strong my long-term memory was. And I remember life's experiences easily to the extent that I used to torture my husband, say, that day, this time you did this, and I remember that. That was how strong my long-term memory is. And my echoic memory is very good. So when I had to remember things for a few seconds with my sensory memory, I used to repeat that to myself. Like if people tell me their mobile number, I don't have to note it down. I can just repeat it to myself and remember it. So that is how strong my echoic memory is. Now, this, when compared to my son has higher and potential in terms of working memory, while mine was a long-term memory. So I never understood the challenge that he was facing. And I used to ask him, see, I taught you this last week. How can you forget so soon? And when Divya counseled me, she asked me, do you say this dialogue to your son? I said, yes. And she said, see, your son is stronger in working memory, but you are strong in long-term memory. So you might be able to remember things while he may not be able to remember things like you do. So which means you would have to have revisions done even the day before the exam, no matter how many times you have taught him before. So that was a spark in me. So that changed the way I helped my son prepare for his exams. And I understood that he needed revisions before the exam. And also when I was I was a 50% cognitive learner and he is an 80% effective learner, which means he needed a lot of motivation. So that is what I started doing. I used to tell myself, yes, you can do this. I kept motivating him. And I see a difference in his attitude in that. Now, here is about the thinking orientation. I have included thinking orientations of all my family members here because between us, we share all these thinking orientations. I am concrete random thinker, which means I was very good at extracurricular activities, dance, speeches, drawing, and things. I was always involved in extracurricular activities in my school days. Okay. But as a concrete random learner, I was also most focused on big picture thinking and working on basis of trial and error was something which came so naturally to me. But one thing that was really challenging for me was doing something when and completing it and redoing the same task is something that I really don't like at all. Okay. And coming to that, my husband Satish is an abstract random thinker. As an abstract random thinker, he was also focused on big picture learning and he's good at teamwork. But he finds it hard to explain his feelings. And I've seen that. And he cannot take even constructive criticisms in his stride, which is actually very evident in his behavior. Now, coming to my elder son, Rishit, he is an abstract sequential thinker. He focuses so much on details which neither I or my husband understand. So teaching him is really difficult task for us. Okay. And he dislikes repetition, being an abstract sequential thinker. He has this strong leadership qualities but he dislikes repetition. You can't tell him more than once. He just hates it. Coming to my son, Danvin, he is my younger son. He is a concrete sequential thinker. Even at he's such a young, he's just 5 now. I can see how well he works when you give him in a structured environment. He just works so easily and effortlessly. But my elder son doesn't do it. I can see the difference at this small age. Okay? And my younger son doesn't like working in groups at all. He always wants to perform solo. Okay. As for the thinking speed, you can see that my sequential thinking and random thinking are moderate. So I used to take time to grasp things. Okay. Whereas for my husband, it was normal. Okay. And my elder son, he had fast thinking speed in both his left and right. Okay. To the extent that he used to get bored so easily. Keeping him occupied was a real challenge for me. And whenever we used to travel for long distance, I used to carry a whole lot of travel playing activities. And I mean, not just one or two, one entire bag will be of travel playing kit so that I can keep him engaged constantly. Otherwise, he just gets so bored. And my younger son, Danvin, he is moderate processor in sequential and random thinking. Being a moderate processor myself, I know how I can actually assist him. So as he grows up, I'll definitely work on those areas. Now comes to my lobalized hemispheric dominance. It shows the neuron distribution in the various lobes of my brain. Okay, as you can see, I'm strong with my right frontal and right temporal. So punctuality, critical thinking, planning, logical activities like Sudoku and artistic activities, imagination, relationships, and all came so naturally to me. Okay. And my temporal also being strong, I had good articulation skills and my grammar skills were very high. When I attended interview for when I was working in Siemens and when I appeared for interview, they had specifically mentioned that I had an exceptional articulation skill. Okay. The drawback with that was I had high audio sensitivity. I hate noises. Even when my kids start crying unnecessarily, that noise used to just irritate me. Like I used to get triggered so easily. I'm learning to control myself that so that I can help my kids out. And I also have this strong audio appreciation skills. I love dance, and whenever I had to dance, even the tiniest of musics, the feeblest of ones were also easy for me to pick up and choreograph steps accordingly for that. And I love melodies and I love music. Okay? But as you can see, my prefrontal is weaker than my frontal. So I had this problem of poor self-esteem for a long time until I actually knew the reason that this is how my brain design was. So I've been working consistently to boost my self-esteem. And then this is again one dialogue that Divya told me when she was counseling me. She asked me, do you plan 10 things, but only end up doing 7 or 8 of them? I said, yes. She said, because most of the time you spend only in planning your things, but you're not executing it. And I was a hardcore perfectionist then. And I used to say, like, if I do it, I'll do it only perfectly. Otherwise, I won't do it at all. And then she said me, it's time you spend lesser time on planning and start executing things. And she showed the difference between my family members' profile as well. But my son, hardly spends time on planning things. He just straight away jumps. And my husband used to tell me, if you have to learn swimming, no matter how much time you spend on land practicing things, or finally you have to jump into water to learn doing it. And that is one thing it struck only after watching or seeing my GBP report. Okay. With a D in my right prefrontal and my left temporal, I have lots of creativity. I just love doing creative things. Okay. But the problem here is there is a lot of oscillation in there. And I tend to procrastinate things so easily because of this. And then my moderate processor is also a big challenge for me. I have a fear of initiating conversation with strangers. So I actually have to prepare at least 10 to 15 times before I go and start a conversation with any stranger. Okay? And that my lack of self-confidence shows up evidently. And I've been working on this area also consistently right now. Okay, so this is the reaction that I have here. So what I do is, whatever plans I get, I start writing down things, and then I just pick one or two that I can start with easily, and then I start working on things rather than spending my time in the planning area. And then I've started working on my self-confidence and self-esteem building. Whenever I'm in doubt, rather than spending time and brooding over tasks whether I can do it or not, I start doing it because I know my D never lets me be without doubt. So I start doing it so that I gain confidence and there's no doubt at all. So these are the low-bias hemispheric dominance of my family members. As you can see, my elder son, he has fast brain in both his right and left brain. And he has a D in his right frontal, right prefrontal. And I remember Sir saying people with the with a D in the prefrontal is very difficult to answer their questions because before you finish answering for one question, they will be ready with another question. They won't listen to your answers. And I've seen that in my son. He does exactly the same thing. And while I was good at organization skills and punctuality, that is something that doesn't come from my naturally from my elder son. So I help him with those areas. And my son is a fast brainer. He's an intuitive learner and he's a visual learner. So he is not a big fan of writing things down. In fact, he's in grade 6 right now. In this entire schooling days, he's never had even one single note complete with all the notes that was taught in school. But earlier, I thought it was laziness. Today, I understand that it is not laziness. His brain design is like that. And I need to give him space to work in his comfort zone. So I don't insist on writing his notes anymore. I tell him to cover up as much as possible. But then I make sure I borrow notes from someone else to help him to help teaching or revise his exams. And I also see that a small X in his left prefrontal triggers him a lot. And whenever that gets triggered, I can see all sorts of illogical statements coming from him. And Danwin is my younger son. And you can all see that he has a cognitive frontal. And that is much similar to mine. So I know how, like when he says something, he's so stubborn about it. He doesn't change easily about it. And his organization skills are so evident in all the works he does. Even if he's asked, suppose you ask him to arrange the shoe stands, or sometimes when I sit down to fold the clothes, he comes, he sits with me, he folds them so neatly, and he puts them in his cupboard so neatly. Whereas my elder son still he doesn't do that. He just takes it and he dumps it. But today I acknowledge that space. I know that it is his cupboard, and he has the liberty to have it his way. But often I just suggest him that it is better he keeps them a little neat so that if he wants to find something, he can search through those things easily. And Satish is my husband, and he has a small X in his left frontal. Again, earlier I used to tell him that you ask me such weird, illogical questions until I knew the reason was the small X that was working on it. And he has a normal processor, and I've seen like my moderate processor makes it a challenge to start a conversation with strangers. But I see that my husband does it confidently, and my elder son, he does it just super confidently. He just walks in and starts talking to anyone he wants. But I don't do it even now. Now this is my multiple intelligence profile. As you can see, I'm very high on people smartness and music smartness. I'm good at establishing relations and maintaining my relations. Okay, and I understand the nuances of music. I just appreciate melody and other things. And with music, music smartness coupled with my D in my prefrontal, I would have made an ideal HR, but somehow that was definitely not my area of interest. So I didn't focus on that. And my body smartness is high. But there's one thing, this body smartness is because of my prefrontal and not because of my parietal. So how it shows up is that I prefer to get things done without moving around. I'm a sort of a couch potato in that. And I use my body smartness selectively. Yes, I go for exercise. I do exercise. Yes, I love dance. But otherwise, I just don't like moving around unnecessarily. I move around only selectively. My homework area is logic smartness. I think, yes, calculations are just not my cup of tea. I don't like anything that involves a lot of complex calculations. On the right side, we have my adult learning domains. As you all know, as adults, we have three options for learning: interactive, introspective, and analytical. And I am more of an interactive learner. When I want to learn something, I just think of one person who could be an expert in that domain. I just talk to them and I ask them. I want them to give me a gist of all their understandings. Though I can actually search through those informations and pick them up myself, I find this being the easiest option for me. Otherwise, I find the plethora of information so overwhelming, and I don't do that only. And in terms of my adult genetic quotients, I'm very high on my EQ and my CQ. Yes, my emotional quotient is high, which means I'm able to handle the emotions of my own emotions and that of people around me a little easily. And my creativity quotient is high. It evidently shows up in the works I do because I just love creativity. And in fact, creativity is one of my core values. Okay. And the next thing we see here are the brain processing of myself and my family members. So as you can see, I'm more of a right brain person. I think more emotionally, and my processing is convergent processing, which means If you ask me to come up with a solution, I need all facts to find the root cause of it and then come up with ways of eliminating the problem. This was evident when all the works that I did, because I was working in telecom and hardware and software maintenance. And I also work as a project manager for a value-added service provider. The concept solutions that I came with were all based on this convergent processing. I used to collect facts, find the root cause, and then work on eliminating the root cause. And even at home, when I handle things, this is how I go about it. And again, my self-transformation also happened only after I knew the root cause of what I was going through. And then I started overcoming it. Okay. And in terms of thinking personality, I'm cognitive both in my left and right. And yes, I do think like fire. I have very sharp thinking and I'm stubborn with my thinking. But my affective personality makes it sure that this cognitive personality is evident only in the back end. And especially in my workplace, people never knew I was really cognitive. I was pretty flexible there. At home, with family, I'm an integrative person. And yeah, as Sir says, I used to delay my punishment. Like when my husband or my mother-in-law, they used to tell something that is contrary to my pattern of thinking. I pause. I do it the way they do. They want me to do it. And when I get a chance to show that I was right and they were wrong, I've seen myself pouncing like a hungry lion. And that quality of mine started changing once I knew this. And my career preferences reveal that I'm more of an outdoor person. Yes, I love staying outdoors. And I'm very, very process oriented. I want things perfect and in order. And I love working with people. Even when I was working with telecom hardware and software maintenance, I used to sit with my team members. I used to discuss a lot, and I enjoyed doing that part of it rather than the actual work part of it, which means, yes, I'm comfortable working with people and not with tasks and technology. So this is my DISC personality. As you can see, I'm high on steadiness and compliance. So yes, I like sort of routine jobs where I can understand and figure out what is coming next after this. I don't like surprises in my routines. And I'm very much process oriented. So I need perfection and a clear route map in what I do. Okay. So earlier I just mentioned that I worked in a startup concern as a value-added service provider. And that 1 year was real struggle for me because there was absolutely no process there. There was no clear-cut mention of whom I'm reporting to or who is reporting to me. What exactly is my job profile? It was like you're lost in an ocean, and I was never comfortable there. And S plus C, this particular thing was mentioned by Sir during our online coaching sessions during the lockdown period last year. S plus C people, they have this unique personality of overthinking, where the past memories easily overtake them and they keep brooding over it. That was a spark in me. That moment, I realized this overthinking doesn't come to people naturally. So I started doing things mindfully so that I started remaining in my present in whatever things whatever things I did, no matter how trivial it was. Even if it was as trivial as brushing my teeth, I started doing it mindfully so that just these past memories or the previous days fights, they just don't come into my mind and start haunting me. And whenever these do happen, I made a conscious effort to shift from those negative thoughts to more empowering thought patterns, which is one reason why I'm able to transform myself. Earlier, I used to crib about the situation that was around me. Today, I've learned to focus on the fuller side of the glass. So now what happens is that everything that I see appears positive to me. And this separates of mine and my husband. Okay. As you can see, I'm high on persistence. Okay. When people say something I can't do it or something, yes, I do get hurt easily, but then I don't stop there. I find out ways of doing it. I'm very, very persevering in my work. Whereas when it comes to my husband, I've seen it like, even if it is constructive criticism, he doesn't like it. He just gives up easily, though the border is actually very less, he gives up easily. When it comes to self-confidence and thoughtfulness, I'm very, very thoughtful. None of my days in the workplace, I was comfortable talking to my seniors or senior management people, or even in anyone at home or outside whom I perceive are of higher authority. I'm never comfortable talking to them. So I am consciously working on boosting this low self-esteem of mine so that I can actually go and talk to them. Yeah, because I've seen areas where this has cost my organizations dearly, and I don't want this to happen. So I make a conscious effort to cut down on this thoughtfulness and start executing things. Whereas my husband is pretty he's pretty confident and he talks to his seniors. In fact, most of his friends are people from senior management than his peers or his subordinates. As for self motivation and patience, I am very, very high on patience. To the extent that I wait for my team to join me and then start doing things. I'm not, and I need a lot of motivation from outside. My husband is fairly balanced, and I've seen him doing things like when he decides to do things, I've seen him getting it done. He doesn't stumble like me with lack of motivation. As far as independence and cooperativeness is concerned, I am very high on cooperativeness. I rely a lot on teamwork. You give me my share of work, I will do it. But if you give the entire work to me, I'm really not comfortable doing it. And my husband is also like that. He's comfortable doing his share of work. I've seen it evidently. As far as friendliness and efficiency is concerned, both of us are high on friendliness. Yes, work preference take a slight backstage when it comes to fun, family, and entertainment. When it comes to enthusiasm and accuracy, I am high on accuracy, but my accuracy doesn't show up in two areas. First is when I have to do a lot of physical work, I would rather be ready to spend on money rather than on doing the physical work myself. And when people come and talk to me, like as if they need help from me, they say, Akka, I want you to do this. I readily do it for him. I readily give away money because there's this soft corner for me which wants to help people. And my husband is higher on enthusiasm. And what happens is like when we want to look for a laptop, he looks for one with the highest of configuration, while I look for one with the outright basic requirements. When we were looking for a car, my husband was looking for Mercedes, I was looking for Nano. So this contrast is evident in whatever things we do. And here is the genetic leadership style of mine and my husband's. As you can see, I am high on, I'm more of an inclusive leader where the emphasis is on relationships. Okay, I'm not comfortable meeting people of higher authority. Whereas my husband is an energizing leader. I've seen him come up with some visionary ideas for his team and his organization. He is a leader for pan-India operations of Vodafone. Vodafone telecom support. He is a pan-India leader, and I've seen him coming up with visionary ideas for that. Okay. At the same time, he is very deliberate as well. So he emphasizes a lot on process in his organization. Every time he keeps talking of process in his organization. While my leadership focuses more on pleasing everyone in the team, I've seen my husband taking clear stance, even with his closest friend working under him, saying that what you did was wrong. But I was not able to tell anyone like this. Like I will never be able to tell anyone outrightly, see this is wrong. I used to beat around the bush, but I've seen my husband doing it so confidently. Okay. And when it comes to my category, I'm 60% employer, which is why I'm taking the plunge into being a solopreneur right now. And my husband is 60% executive. He's still not comfortable venturing out of those areas. And both of us are comfortable in terms of management styles. My husband is more comfortable with developmental activities as well. And this is my MBTI profile and my husband's. Okay, for me, I'm more of an extrovert, and my extrovert is not really visible, mostly because of my moderate processor, which makes me hesitant in talking to people. Otherwise, I'm an outright extrovert. But thanks to this moderate processor, I more sort of appear an ambivert. because I'm really not comfortable making party with anyone outside my own team. And I am more of an intuitive learner. I can connect dots and understand things easily. And my decisions are made based on emotions. Logic takes backstage that time. When it comes to lifestyle, I'm more judgment oriented. I always want to live life in a certain way. Okay, taking life easily doesn't come so naturally to me. I want life in a pre-planned way. And when it comes to execution, at task and work, I'm more effective and flexible. With people and family, I'm integrative. As for my husband is concerned, he is more of an ambivert. His extroversion is seen only among his close friends, and is more of an introvert in this case. As far as input is concerned, my husband is predominantly intuitive, and I've seen him understand things just like that's easy. He just grasps concepts so easily. And as far as decision is making is concerned, while both thinking and feeling are fairly balanced, yes, feelings does take a prominent place in his decision making. But at least logic is not put in the back burner like how I do. And in terms of lifestyle, my husband is fairly balanced, but he's more of a perceptive person. In that, he's ready to accept life as it comes, and he lives it so effortlessly. I've seen that. And his execution is again in task or work, he's effective. With people or family, he's cognitive. It's just his way or highway. So, what were the transformations as that I had because of the result of my GPP understandings? First things, I learned to face my fears. I was so camera shy. I was finding it difficult to stand in front of people and give a speech when I came for my GPP training. And today I'm able to do it confidently because I've worked on areas which were my weakness, which were hindering me from doing all this. I worked on those areas consciously as a result of my understanding from GBP. And that is how I stand here so confidently today. And when I get negative thoughts, I've learned to silence them. I put my S plus C at sleep. I put my S plus C to sleep, and I focus on being mindful and focusing on positive thoughts. And then I'm learning to fix my D and my moderate processes so that I'm growing high on self-confidence and self-esteem. And the one biggest thing I feel is I've learned to respect people for who they are without judging them. I've learned to understand that there are many different styles of doing same thing. There are many different angles of looking at things. And this has made me respect people. As an engineering student, I remember learning of perspective projections. We were shown one object and we were supposed to draw the projection of an object of how it would appear given at each level of our eye and at different angles. The same object would appear differently for each eye position or each angle at which we look at it. I've learned to apply that concept here when I look at people. I realize everyone has their own way of looking at things. And so my respect for them grows rather than I don't keep finding faults with anyone anymore. And then I've started working on minimizing the damage I could have done on otherwise my cognitive son, which would have happened otherwise so easily. Being I'm so focused on routines and he doesn't like routines. I'm so strict and procedure oriented and he doesn't like taking commands. Yes, my parenting and our family life would have been really difficult if not for GVP. I realized perfection is a myth. My growth started only when I started believing this, that perfection is not true. Okay, so today I'm an established happiness life coach. I'm a published author of one book, and another book is in under publishing. And I also have a successful blog, www.mymindvoice.com. So this is my transformation, and this is the story of how an ordinary person like me became an extraordinary person, all thanks to GVP. I'm currently doing an NLP course where one of my mentors says that our subconscious mind is what doing most part of our thinking. Okay, unlike digestion, unlike breathing, unlike heartbeat, thinking is not a involuntary reaction, it is a voluntary reaction. Then how is it that people think in different ways? It is because of their brain design. And GBP brought that subconscious things in my mind to my conscious mind. And from there, the change has been evident. There's a quote that I really love. She remembered who she was, and that changed the game. That's exactly what GBP has done to me. It showed me who I am, and that changed the game. And I'm standing here confident and a changed person right in front of you. And that's it. Thanks to JVP, and thank you to you all for listening to my self-discovery so patiently. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful opportunity.